Be here to talk about air quality with all of you today. We have a really impressive panel of folks who are kind of the movers and shakers of the Detroit air quality scene, so to speak, in Metro Detroit. And I'm going to give them each a brief opportunity to introduce themselves. My name is Nina Ignaczak. I'm the founder and editor of Planet Detroit. We're at planetdetroit.org, and we are a nonprofit news organization focused on covering health and environment issues that matter to Detroiters. I'm going to turn it over to Darren Riley to introduce himself.
Hi, everybody. Pleasure to be here, and thank you so much, Nina, for all you do and reporting the real news and all the reports and stuff from Planet Detroit. But yeah, Darren Riley, founder, CEO of Just Air, really an organization really bent on making sure that everyone has access to clean air, which I'm excited to be here and share more of our learnings. But yeah, thrilled to be a part of this community. I live in Detroit, Southwest Detroit, and excited to share more. I'll pass it on to Jeff.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Jeff Gearhart. I'm with the Ecology Center. We're a nonprofit research and advocacy organization with offices in Ann Arbor and Detroit, and work a lot with all of the wonderful people on this call. I will send it over to Kathleen.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks, Nina, for putting this together. I'm really happy and proud to be here with you. I'm from the Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America, the Michigan Chapter, Kathleen Slonager. I'm also a registered nurse and certified asthma educator, and my agency is celebrating 40 years of serving Michiganders this year. And so what we do is provide information and education around asthma and allergy issues. And I'm going to turn it over to June.
Good afternoon. My name is June Mack. I'm the president of Winship Community Improvement Association. I'm also involved with Disaster Recovery Group and Feeding the Neighborhood Corporation on the east side, which we're expanding to the west side. And I have a class that I instruct every Thursday at WC3 on South Carolina Drive for seniors to teach them how to use a computer.
All right, so June, we're going to start with you. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. So you have a history with asthma. Can you tell us about when you started noticing your symptoms and how it's impacted your life?
Actually, I was born with asthma, and as far back as I can remember, it would be certain things that I would eat would bring on my wheezing. If I ran too much or was in a field of grass, and they would bring on my asthma, I would start wheezing. And I was always told that I would grow out of it by my grandparents and my great-grandparents and my mother. And here lately, in the last 3 years, I found out that I would never grow out of it, and I'm 72 years old, and that it's a disease and nothing that I can grow out of. And
So have you been able to manage your symptoms throughout your life, or has it been?
I stay away from things that I'm allergic to. And when I find that I have problems breathing, I avoid areas that have different odors. Different perfumes bring on my asthma sometimes. You know, pops. I drink water and tea, you know, and different materials also. When I buy things, I have to wash them. I cannot just buy them and wear it. I have to wash the dyes out. The dyes bring on things. And I go in people's homes, that way I work, you know, the work that I'm doing, they have mold. I can smell it like when it makes my chest heavy. I feel the weight on my lungs. When I go into their homes, I wear a mask or one of those respirator masks and stuff. You know, we're doing a thing with Disaster Recovery Group, and people get mold in their houses from the water backing up in their basement, mold and mildew. And that's what we're working on, trying to get them cleaned up and get them healthy. And they don't understand how come they have lung problems. Some have black mold in their ears from the mold in their homes. Some have it in their lungs.
Yeah.
So, but I try to stay away from things that make my asthma flare up, because I know me.
Yeah, and so you've had to figure that out over your whole life.
Yes, I have.
Okay. Darren, you also have asthma, I understand, and you kind of use your personal experience to make a company. Can you tell us about that?
Well,
Oh, that's for Darren.
that's
You
what
look at that.
Darren
Yeah,
has
you can do it too, though.
You can talk too, yeah.
No, no, I appreciate you, June, and yeah, kind of echo, that experience as well. So I didn't grow up with asthma. Originally from Houston, Texas. Athlete throughout my life, and so breathing never had was second thought. I had friends and peers who may have had issues around asthma. It wasn't until 2018. So what's that? Man, I'm getting old. 6 years ago, I lived in Southwest Detroit when I moved here. That I started kind of feeling these flare-ups, or what I didn't know was asthma. But I remember it was a critical period. I think it was around like a summertime. I played basketball in a local church here, and I couldn't really get up and down the court. I had to sleep like perpendicular because I realized that, if I was laid down, the gravity, just the phlegm and everything built up. I literally couldn't breathe, drinking water, all the coughing. I thought it was like I had bronchitis or something. I don't know what was going on. It took me a while, like a week, and I was like literally suffering, probably having acute asthma attacks frequently. And so I went to the doctor, and they did the test and said, hey, you have asthma. And so it came really sudden. It probably, reflecting on it, probably was like slowly building up to that point, I would assume. But that was the experience that I was dealing with. But what really hit a nerve for me, my background is in technology. So I'm a software engineer by trade. And I've always been fascinated on how we use technology to actually unroot some systemic issues, in communities, whether it be, economic poverty, some of the health issues, such as air quality that we're working on. And so never thought about building an organization around this work. But it wasn't until COVID where, I was like, what do we have to lose? With George Floyd that was going on, the COVID mortality deaths hit Black and brown communities the most. A lot of my loved ones passing away. Was like, there's limited time on Earth, we got to do something about it. And so air quality was one of those things that underlined some of the lung diseases that made it more likely for people to pass away from COVID. So that's when I really was like, all right, let's see what's going on and how do we get more data and make sure that these health disparities are in our community. So I know
Yeah,
it's a little bit of a rhythm, but that's kind of, why we do our work, and why we'll make sure we kind of root some of those injustices.
yeah. And we're going to get more into your company and the data that you're collecting later on in our talk. But first, I'm going to let Kathleen tell us a little bit about the work that she does. And Kathleen, these stories are things that you've heard in the past a lot in your work. Can you tell us, what you're seeing in terms of asthma in the Detroit area?
Sure. So yeah, asthma in Southeast Michigan and especially Detroit is among the highest across the state and in fact across the country. And what June and Darren have been experiencing is replicated among Detroiters over and over and over again. In all the years that we've been working in the area, these are the stories that we're hearing. And I have to be honest with you, we can teach people about their medication, we can teach them about their disease process and how to remove triggers in the home. But there's a lot that contributes to more asthma cases and worse asthma in the air quality. And so how am I supposed to help people get rid of that trigger when there's so many policies in place and so many industries happening that we don't have a lot of control over?
Mhm.
So we have dedicated more efforts in the last few years to trying to change policy, because truly that's going to be one of the big ways that we can improve the air quality of what's going on. But to kind of expand on what June and Darren were experiencing is Asthma and Allergy Foundation does an asthma capitals report every year. And last year, unfortunately, Detroit ended up in the first spot. That meant we were the worst place to live in the country if you
Do you
had
want me
asthma.
to bring that up for you, or?
Yeah, would you?
Yeah.
And a little good sign though, this year we did move into the fifth worst spot. So that's still pretty bad. We need to get better on these numbers. But what the Asthma Capitals report highlights is how hard it is for people with asthma to live in certain cities. And you'll notice a lot of those worst cities are the ones in the more industrial aspects of the country. And that's exactly what goes on in Detroit is the industry, contributes to a lot of the air pollution, which contributes to more asthma cases and people getting worse asthma symptoms. Asthma Capitals has also allowed us to explore more of why that goes on in Detroit. And so I think the work that Darren does and what we're going to hear about what Jeff does really contributes to us being able to make these changes that are necessary through individual modification, but as well as policies. So I think people should pop into the Asthma Capitals 2023 report and take a look, see why cities get placed in these worse areas like Detroit, and what you can do to try to improve the conditions.
Got it. And we'll share all of these links out with all of the attendees afterwards. I'm going to stop share just to make sure I don't turn us off the webinar. So lastly, we're going to go to Jeff. Jeff, you've been studying this for a while in your role with Ecology Center. What are we facing in terms of air quality in Detroit, and what's driving it? Oop, you're muted.
Thanks, Nina. I think important to recognize our approach to this work is really based on bringing a broader environmental health perspective, which focuses both on human health and ecological health. And when we start bringing that perspective to this work in terms of understanding community health, you pretty quickly get to the point where you realize air quality is one of the critical components to determining health outcomes and impacts, but it's not the only one. And I think, as Kathleen was mentioning, we know that there are significant historic social factors, historic racism, historic reasons why we have poor housing stock, the reasons why we have overburdened communities that are being impacted by multiple issues, and that has a profound impact on health. And air quality both exacerbates and is a trigger in that. And that's why, increasingly we want to look at these issues in an all-encompassing way. So there's been a number of efforts over the last decade to try to look at how do we integrate in environmental exposure measures and environmental effects with measures of sensitive populations, as well as socioeconomic factors that impact this. So Michigan has a wonderful tool, the Michigan EJ screen, that actually does that for the state of Michigan. EPA has a tool, and there's other tools out there that use these data sets to look at areas that are overburdened from these perspectives. And so when we think about air quality and the impact, it's within that context. And the system for which we're trying to address health on a community basis is fragmented at best, and I would characterize it as broken in some important ways in terms of being able to address the on-the-ground health concerns that exist in the community. So part of that is really going to be addressing these air quality concerns that are profound and really important. And then part of that is really we need to re-envision our regulatory system in terms of how we approach addressing health in our communities.
And Jeff, there's a new standard that EPA is trying to put forward regarding particulate matter or soot. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. There's been an effort over the last quite a few years to reevaluate the PM 2.5 standard that applies nationally. EPA just recently announced that they were going to lower the yearly limit from 12 micrograms per cubic meter to 9 micrograms per cubic meter. That is going to be a significant change in terms of what parts of the state are going to be in non-attainment for meeting that standard. And I think the preliminary analysis that ourselves and our colleagues have done show that there's going to be significant parts of the state, a lot of our major cities are going to have compliance problems based on existing data that's out there, and that we are going to be in non-attainment. That opens up a number of opportunities. That brings in additional requirements in permitting, moving from higher level of control technology, moving from best available control technology to lowest achievable emission reduction in terms of evaluating permits. And it also requires the state to create a plan to get into attainment and to address sources that are contributing to the exceedance of that standard. So that is something that our communities and the state is going to be dealing with in the coming years.
Okay, and I just wanted to be clear, you know, when we talk about air quality, the Clean Air Act has made a difference, right? I mean, we have cleaner air than we did in 1970. Is that true? But we're still just not where we need to be. That's a question for anybody who wants to. Yeah.
Well, I'll respond. Go ahead, Darren.
I'll just say, I mean, I think the short answer is I believe yes. The other answer is that I think we're just trying to realize how deeply air quality impacts in unique ways. Even new studies around education and brain development in early childhood, right? These are things that are coming out. So yes, while we're decreasing over time and trending, I think we're still not where we need to be given the new information around the health impacts around air pollution.
Yeah, and I'm just bringing up this this graph just to show when we reported on ozone earlier this year, you know, we were asked to put this in context. So yes, these pollutants have come down, but they're still causing problems. And like, yeah, Darren said, I think we're just starting to appreciate what those are.
These new EPA regulations, though, will help. You know, we're definitely going to see less cases of asthma. Some of the estimates show almost 6,000 less cases and a lot less asthma exacerbations where people feel worse by 800,000. So even that shift from 12 to 9 really reduces the particulate pollution. So people's health will improve. And that's what we have to keep doing is making these legislation rules to keep improving things.
So Darren, let's shift to Just Air and tell us a little bit more about what it is you do, and maybe starting with what we're looking at here.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think I do want to start with just kind of building on what I was saying earlier with the reasons of starting Just Air, obviously my personal experience, but I think even broader than that, just how important it is to make sure that we manage air quality well within our environments to what extent we can do so. And what do I mean by that? There's studies that show that air pollution caused more deaths within a year than war, caused more deaths than cigarette smoke, more deaths than car crashes. And so just understanding that, cutting people's lives short due to some of these elements and the impact on our health does impact our economy, right? The U.S., there's an estimate that air pollution costs the U.S. $600 billion yearly. And so when we talk about, before I dive into what Just Air is all about, it's not just, hey, I'm suffering from asthma and everyone's, which is the most important thing, the human aspect of it, but also we're trying to move forward as a society and really make sure our communities are out there and putting food on the table for their families, that they can go to work, that kids can learn is super essential to make sure that we get this under control. So I just want to give that fabric of why we started Just Air. And I just from the anecdote of me developing the disease. But what you see in front of you is our main product, which is really a public facing dashboard that everyone here has access to at justair.app. You can sign up for alerts. We're starting to actually build out a new platform where you actually can subscribe to monitors that are important to you. So maybe you don't care about this monitor on the east side, and you're just worried about the monitors, down in Southwest and more monitors to come. So kind of curating that experience. But you receive an air quality alert when things are bad. We show you the air quality index on each dot, localized, and also pull out what pollutant is causing that issue, right? If it's an ozone day, maybe that's something where, hey, I want to think twice about mowing my lawn, or, if I don't have to pump my gas, maybe not choose that day because of those VOCs catalyzing with ozone. If it's a particulate day, say N95, make sure those fine particles don't enter our bloodstream and exacerbate asthma in certain cases. So that's kind of where we are. And going forward, just to kind of make a quick announcement, we do have a really exciting project with the County of Wayne, where we're deploying 100 stationary monitors throughout the county, where people can subscribe and get real time throughout the 43 communities and the 15 districts throughout Wayne. That will give just more of a broader picture, right? So, people in Hamtramck, obviously we have work in Dearborn already. Think about Inkster and other places where, this data can be more accessible. And the last thing I will say, and I promise this is the last thing, because I say that all the time, is that a part of that project as well is we are doing a private study with 500 mobile monitors, and more information will come for people who are interested. And we're also equipping Bluetooth inhalers to where when I have an exacerbation, I click my to trigger my medication. That triggers a location that's privatized, but also understand the local exposure. So the mobile monitor next to me will then show the pollutants when I did that exacerbation, and also the network of monitors around me, the closest monitor to exacerbation. So we look at exposure of what could cause those triggers. And just to understand, for me, for example, when I have my, there's nothing in the world better than breathing, and have those episodes of asthma. It's nothing I can think about other than breathing. And then once I clear it, I'm not reflective of when I was having those triggers as much as I should be, as much as my doctor wants me to be. So while we're building this technology, it's really assisted that. So you can imagine a map of, hey, all my exacerbations are coming from the gym or my school or my home, right? So we can start to pay more attention and try to alleviate some of those triggers that may be causing that. So all that to say is Just Air is building all types of technologies, really focused on making sure everyone has access to clean air and able to breathe in more healthy in environments.
That's really, so the exposure data would go to you personally, or would there be like a map where people are getting exposed also publicly?
It's personally, that's just from HIPAA compliance, and also
Right.
we are working with youth. Our intentionality is, so I think that's a level of exposure. So the families who enter the study and the folks who have that personal mobile monitor and the personal inhaler connection will have access to their own data. In the county will be doing their own research broadly that will be public about some of what we learned. Recruitment will start here soon, and it'll be more information. We'll make sure you
Yeah,
all know.
that's really interesting. I definitely want to learn more about that. So this map is live. This is showing within like the last hour what the air quality has been at these sites. Is that right?
Yeah, so we do a rolling average air quality index. So we use Nowcast, so rolling 12 hours. So what you see here in front of you, the last sample or last time this was updated is 11:42. So it's a rolling average since 11 a.m. And so once it hit 12 p.m., we have our next sample or average, or at 12:30 probably, you'll see that update. So it's as real time as we can get. So this concentration, for example, 12:21, this is as accurate as there's something that's happening right there. So as real time as we can get, to make sure we are kind of getting that valid information.
So
What
it
you
looks
see
like
here
it's
also is
getting worse. It's been getting worse. 11
so
a.m. What's going on?
so you can see, that's the point as well, is when you're looking at this map, and this is something that we're getting better at and trying to improve upon in terms of the education piece, is that this tells one part of the story. The other part of the story, as Jeff knows as well, is what is really happening in that environment. That's why we need sample data. That's why we have, if there's heavy trucking traffic, right, next to a school that gets out at 3 p.m. and we see a spike, we can assume that maybe parents are idling or buses are idling. That could be the context. So this tells one part of the story, but the other part of the story is really on the ground and and you understand your environment better than these monitors. You see what's going on in your environment. Hey, what that industry, hey, these trucks idle, or hey, these homes that, or maybe need some updating. So, but also one thing I'll note, and maybe kick it over to Jeff to maybe share more on the importance of make sure we have quality data and quality instrumentation when we do this reporting. So one thing we try to focus on is make sure the data that is available is controlled, calibrated, make sure that we maintain these monitors and not reporting bad data that, people are making decisions on. But I know Jeff is actually my guru and taught me a lot of these things. So I'd love to, if he has any input on just like that whole infrastructure bit and monitoring.
Well, I'll just comment that community-based monitoring has, as someone who's been doing this for decades, in the last 10 years has really expanded incredibly around the country, around the world. And so there are a lot of people engaged in this work. This is our Southeast Michigan project, but Darren's doing work in other parts of the state. We're doing work in other parts of the state and in other states doing this. So it's a significant shift in communities being able to generate their own data. There's real challenges out there in terms of maintaining data quality and working on those issues, and we're all kind of wrestling with that. But nonetheless, the work has been really successful as a way to educate, engage community members in understanding what are some of the kind of micro air quality impacts that may be happening in their neighborhoods. And then I think it's also, particularly when we start looking at, the PM standard being lowered and some other regulatory changes, I think this additional monitoring helps add granular detail to the regulatory monitoring systems and helps us try to understand places where we need more monitors. Where do we need more regulatory grade monitors? Where do they need to be? And can help drive improvements in policy. So I think it's an exciting set of work. Darren's really been doing a great job leading up that work, but I think all of us are involved in different aspects of that.
Yeah, this is really exciting. I'm going to stop sharing now, and we're going to shift gears a little bit because we want to talk about, okay, we understand air quality is something that, there's big policy forces at work that we need to be looking at. But if you're somebody that has asthma, what can you do to make sure that you are managing that condition to the best of your ability? And so Kathleen and June participated in a program to try to help make that happen. So Kathleen, could you start a little bit just by telling us what that program is? It's called HEAL. What does that stand for? What does that mean?
So before I jump into that, and I want to talk about that, I do also want to mention that my agency, Asthma and Allergy Foundation, has received a grant from the EPA of the United States. We're working with Wayne State University and also doing some air monitoring in Detroit for seniors. And we're lucky enough to be able to put a monitor in the home as well as outside the home. So this is going to add to the database that Darren and Jeff use in their analysis. And I think that's going to enhance really what medical folks can do to help people then when we understand the impacts of what's going on in the environment.
Very cool.
And one other issue is people have to understand that pollution not only affects people with respiratory illness, but we know now that pollution, what it does to the body with its toxins, can affect heart disease, can affect diabetes, can affect maternal and fetal mortality, and so many other chronic health issues. So it's just not for respiratory, which is bad enough. Now, if you add in all those others, so it's so important that we're having this discussion today and that we are going to talk about some solutions like this HEAL program that the Asthma and Allergy Foundation was lucky enough to receive a grant for, so that we could really impact people in the Detroit area, help them understand the disease process, help them understand what they can do about it. But HEAL itself stands for Health Equity Advancement and Leadership. It's a fund that started from our national office to really drill down into the communities where these chronic illness problems happen the most, and especially in communities that have been historically disadvantaged and not received adequate health care, not received the economic benefits and all these other things that we know are going on. So we developed our HEAL program to reach into those most impacted. And what it does is not only teaches folks about their asthma condition and how to make it better, but we know that chronic disease and health is kind of you need a holistic perspective, and lifestyles need modification in order to improve the chronic condition. And so we've been able to offer folks not only the education, but access to exercise. So we give them free family memberships to the local YMCAs. You can go on site, and they also have virtual. So there's no excuse, because we know movement improves health. We also are able to provide nutrition support. So we give them visiting sessions with a certified nutritionist so they can talk about food and how that impacts their asthma and allergies and how that impacts their health in general. But we've also been able to offer them the fresh food that they need in order to make these improvements. So we've worked an arrangement with the Eastern Market, and our folks can come, twice a month and pick up the farm box. And they can do that curbside, so it's really easy. Another aspect of the HEAL program is that every time folks accomplish a task in the program, they get a reward. But it's just not any reward. They get a reward that's going to benefit their health. So they might get an air filter. At some other point, they might get a water filter, because we know water is not that great in Southeast Michigan. We also have opportunities for them to receive allergy-friendly bedding and allergy-friendly cleaning products. I mean, it just kind of goes on from there. But another big impact of our program is that we have tried to ensure that our folks visit with an asthma specialist so that they can really get on the right track to improving their asthma condition. And I wanted to, I see you brought the story up about the HEAL that Planet Detroit did, and that's really great. Yeah, and Nina, yeah, there she is. So I wanted to also, if I could, share my screen. I wanted to bring up some of the, maybe after June talks, maybe June can share about her experience, and then I'll bring up some slides that really we've been doing an evaluation of the program so we can see how it has actually impacted folks.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. So June, you participated in the HEAL program. Did you win any prizes? What did you?
No, I didn't win. I did everything that they asked me to do. I went to an asthma allergy specialist.
Yeah.
And there I found out that I never knew that I thought all these years that I was allergic to shrimp, because when I would cook them, my fingers would swell, my lip would swell when I eat them. I get bumps. And I found out that I wasn't, because he told me I was allergic to, after all these tests they give you with the needles and all that stuff they stick you with. I'm not allergic to shrimp. I'm allergic to the preservative that they spray on the shrimp.
Wow.
And I didn't know that they were spraying preservatives on the shrimp.
Great.
But I always did not do that, soak it like I do now. But I soak all my chicken, my fish, I soak it with kosher salt and white vinegar. I soak my white potatoes after I cut them up and let the potassium fall to the bottom of the bowl. I let it, and I pour that potassium off, because I know it's not good for you, too much potassium. But I didn't know that. I learned that I wasn't allergic to shrimps, and there's certain things that I can't eat, certain things that I can't wear, certain things that I can't smell. But I'm allergic to grass, but I cut my grass. I wear a mask because that's exercise. I do my snow. I do things. I have a garden. I don't buy a lot of vegetables because I grow them. And
So
I don't.
Nina, you said that.
Huh?
Nina, you said that June won prizes, and again, they're not winning the prizes.
I didn't win. I achieved them. They just gave it to me for doing the pillows. I love the pillows. Okay, and the air cleaner.
What are the pillows? So
I
are they?
have a water filter on my whole house. I had already did that before the Flint episode. When I bought this house, I put a water filter on. I had it. We did it. So my grass gets filtered water. That's what I water it. My vegetables get filtered water. I know I got a lot of allergies, and cats. People that have asthma should not be around a cat.
Yeah.
If you're allergic.
You know, even dogs. Oh, unless you got the dog with no hair. They have dogs with no hair, you know, but they don't look good.
So June, did you say that you didn't actually know that you had asthma
I knew
before?
I had asthma, but I thought I was going to grow out of it from being told all my life.
Yeah.
I'm not from Michigan. I'm from New York. But I
Okay.
would go to Alabama to visit my grandparents. They would always tell me that I would grow out of it.
Yeah.
And I never grew out of it. I would just not have so many bad episodes all the time. But I
Mm.
did everything that kids do. I went camping, I went skiing, I did all that stuff, but it would be limited because my breath would be short. And I always had an atomizer. At that time it was isopropyl, you just buy it over the counter at the drugstore. Now everything is so expensive. But the main thing to getting to people about with asthma is education. You got to educate them. My community association, I always hand out all these flyers from here. I make copies and I give it to them. I send it to my friends on the east side where I'm going to have Darren go, because you met somebody over there, Darren. You don't remember them, but they are advocate over there on the east side here in Detroit. And I tell everybody about it. I have asthma and cigarette smoke, perfumes. You spend all this money on perfumes and colognes, and it'll bring on an asthma attack. Certain perfumes will have you in the emergency room. Certain foods, certain fruits, a lot of stuff. But I
So
like
for you, for the HEAL program, what was the best part of it? What did
the
you?
test. I had to do all those tests. You would read each chapter. You know, Kathleen, those chapters. You have to answer those questions.
I wrote them.
You wrote those questions. I did. It's a big book, okay? And you have to go through. But you have to answer. You do it. You take a test. So if you don't pass with the answers, they know you didn't read it. It's a big book. It's a binder.
Did you do the food as well? Did you pick up?
I can't. A lot of the food that Easter Market had, I don't eat. I can't.
Oh.
So if I got the box, I would give it away because there's certain things that I can't eat. But I grow my own. I have a garden every year.
Yeah.
And
Let me pull up the survey results.
Huh?
I'm going to pull up the survey results.
Okay.
Because I know we're running short on time.
Yeah, there's the colors of the book.
So can you guys see my screen?
Yes, I can. Yep.
I wanted to show you some of the results. And this is just preliminary data after 6 months of folks being involved in the HEAL project. You can see that in the beginning, folks didn't really know how to manage their asthma. Only 48% said they were confident. And after just being in the program 6 months, that moved up to 70% feeling confident that they could manage their asthma. And from 57% to identifying their triggers to 74%. So you can see just even after 6 months, people are getting a better understanding.
Mm-hmm.
They're seeing their asthma specialist or pulmonologist. Look at that almost tripled.
Mm-hmm.
And the best part I need to is that they're not having to go to the emergency room or an unplanned doctor's visit by almost half. That dropped by half. And the hospitalizations also dropped by half almost.
Mm-hmm.
These are significant numbers, and we're just now getting our 12-month data. So we should be seeing similar, there's no reason we shouldn't see even better numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, Kathleen, I haven't had an asthma attack.
Well, that's
I've
the
been good.
Best
best
part.
outcome of all.
Coming up the basement stairs. I'm not anymore.
That is the best part.
And Brio, the new atomizer that he put me on, Brio, it works. And I'm good. I'm good. I just watch what I eat and where I go,
That's perfect to hear. I love
I
it.
try to educate people on asthma. I let them know about HEAL. I do.
Yeah, and we actually started a second group just this year, and I have just a handful of openings left.
Okay.
So if there's anybody listening who thinks they would like to get involved, we've even expanded it to Wayne and Oakland County,
Okay.
not just Detroit. You have to be an adult over 18, have asthma, been affected by disparities in healthcare. And other than that, it's a pretty open application process. You can go to our website at aafamich.org and click on services, and you'll get a link to the application.
Okay,
We'd love
great.
to see more of you
Automatic too,
folks
and
involved.
email, yep. All
I
right.
did the exercises also via on Zoom with the
Oh, good
workout.
job.
I did that. I loved it. I loved it. I couldn't do the butterfly though.
What kind of exercise was it?
It
Well,
was
the YMCA also offers a
uh-huh.
virtual
Yes,
exercise
they have it
program.
virtual.
Okay, so like a
Uh-huh.
calisthenics class. That sounds fun.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that this, made an impact for you, June, and that you haven't had an asthma attack. I think, I've talked to a lot of people in my reporting that just really struggle with it and struggle to find ways to deal with it. So I think, what all of you are doing, both like trying to help people identify their triggers in the community and then educating folks on how they can, get the help they need, the kind of medical attention, but also, other things that they can do with their lives, their eating habits and, their home environments. So where do we go from here? What if each of you could kind of wave a magic wand and say one thing would, change over the next, 3 to 5 years to make a real difference in this issue, what would it be?
Continuing to educate people about asthma and trying to get to the powers that be to get them to regulate all this stuff in the air.
Mhm.
You know, policy, change policy
Change policy. Okay.
to adapt with the future and with healthcare. They need to be balanced.
Mhm.
That's what I think. But if I could wave a wand, I would do it
Mhm.
and make
Well,
it
you're
happen.
already doing it, so you don't need to wave a wand.
I continue. Nobody else?
Yeah, I'll jump in, June. I think it's doing more of what you're already doing. Nina, once again, just wanted to say I appreciate you highlighting this work and highlighting all these efforts that are happening around Detroit. I think, yeah, I thinking back to, folks who've encouraged me in this space, from Teresa Landrup, Donna Wilkins, a lot of environmental justice leaders who've been doing this work far before I was born and continue to do this work, and seeing people in their community pass away from things that
Could have been
didn't
prevented.
see and didn't achieve the
Mhm.
justice that they sought, and they continue to fight for this work. So I think my biggest thing and encouragement is, as new generations come into this fold, is continue to push the efforts, because things are changing. This particular matter standard, right? These new policies, new technologies, all the stuff that the Hill program is doing. I mean, that is outstanding to keep people out the emergency room. My father was just in the ICU during the holiday break because of asthma, right? So I think if I can wave a magic wand, is just to stay encouraged, because things are happening. So just keep that momentum and keep going. So that's my thought.
I was just informed today about an ordinance some of our council people here in Detroit want to pass about having chickens, pigs, and all this stuff 30 feet away from each neighbor's house. I don't think that's healthy.
Yeah, that's a controversy.
I don't think that's healthy. And I don't think that people in the community know much about this, because I got the letter and I didn't pay any attention to it till it was brought to my attention. And so until this evening, although the weather is bad, I will be down at the city.
Okay.
We're going in a group.
Jeff, what's your magic wand? Oh, you're muted again.
Sorry. I can't find my magic wand, so have to do the best I can. I do think, just to highlight the broader concern around air quality, is we are going to be seeing impacts from climate change and that are going to be happening locally, regionally, and globally. Those are going to impact the levels of particulate matter, particularly ground level ozone, which we haven't talked about that much here, and more extreme weather, more hot days, which are going to impact the chemistry, the atmospheric chemistry, that are going to impact our air quality. So we need to continue to evolve our regulatory paradigm on how we try to address these issues, because the way we do it now is not able to address what people are really going to be experiencing, what they already are experiencing, and what people are going to experience going forward in a changing atmosphere. And I think we need to look at, again, particularly if the data shows we have profoundly overburdened communities, we need to ask serious questions about whether or not we're going to continue to allow new or expanded siting of industry in these areas. These are really important questions because the system right now, we don't say no. And we know we have health impacted communities and we continue to permit and cite sources there. So really ask the questions on whether we need a pause on some of the new sources that are being put in until we have a handle on this. And then, in terms of thinking about regulatory requirements, is how do we move beyond what's in the regulatory requirements? How do we look at new state laws that address some of these issues, things that we can actually do in Michigan? So I'm hoping in 3 to 5 years we've made progress on that.
Kathleen, anything anybody hasn't said yet on your wand?
Yeah, I do want to mirror what Jeff is saying about the climate because it's important that each individual and business starts to really, move in that directions. We all need to use clean, renewable energy sources. And the interesting thing about making these shifts is that they impact the health in a positive way very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas these changes take a little longer to impact the actual climate.
Mm-hmm.
So by making these changes to more of a green and renewable economy and energy use, we're going to see the health impacts a lot sooner than even the benefits to the climate. So that's a good thing. But my magic wand has helped because some good news is the Detroit Public Schools is one of the schools that have been granted an award from the EPA, and they're going to be able to get 15 electric school buses. So think about all the combustion and fossil fuel that won't be going into the environment because of those new electric school buses. Mm-hmm. So that's exciting news for Detroit and exciting because we know how badly affected the kids are by poor air quality in Detroit. So this is going to really help them. So that's good news. And then, like we've all mentioned, the EPA regulation changing the PM to 9 micrograms is really going to impact health in a great way. So these are the things we can continue and should keep pushing for and riding the coattails of, so that these changes that are really necessary to improve our climate, can actually happen. So it's good stuff happening. We got to keep that momentum going.
A lot happening around air quality. It's really amazing. So we have just about 9 minutes left and wanted to leave some time for questions from the audience. I don't know how we actually receive those questions. Monica, do you know? Do we have anybody that can raise their hand or submit a question? Put it in the chat. Okay. I think anybody can put a question in the chat. And then we'll all be able to see them. So if anybody has any questions for any of our panelists today, throw it in the chat and we'll chat about it on the call. Looks like
while we're waiting for those, I wanted to also mention that another great thing happening is the Inflation Reduction Act that the Biden administration got passed and legislation got passed recently. That's going to impact health and climate because there's so many great incentives and rebates and such in that plan that will help industry and businesses and individuals move from this fossil specific environment into a green and electrification environment. So that's another good thing.
And June, do you have a Black Club?
Yes, I'm the president
of Quality Black Club.
I'm the president of Winship Community Improvement Association.
Uh-huh.
I pair people with an organization called EcoWorks. They get furnaces, air
Yep.
conditioners, hot water tanks, and we're trying to go to the new electric furnaces instead of the old furnaces and boilers. Okay, and we try to do weatherization. I'm also the secretary of Sinai Grace Guild. We have an organization, we do weatherization to homes in the Winship community area and the surrounding community around Winship. We do weatherization, we do windows, furnaces, hot water tanks, central air, and we do that, repair their porches, their steps. We do things like that. We try to help them
Very
to stay in their homes and stay healthy and get rid of the mold and the mildew. And I
So
also work with disaster recovery group, like I said before.
Yeah.
We are getting them, we do muck outs, we clean the basements out, get the mold and the mildew, and give them furnaces, boilers, hot water tanks, try to get them to go to electric electric furnaces. There's a new thing with EcoWorks. We paired up with EcoWorks. So
Mm-hmm.
we do a lot on both east, west, and south. Haven't got to the north yet, but we're working on it.
Yeah, I'm gonna second some of these comments. They're saying that you are the mover and shaker.
Oh, I did get that award for change maker.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. Sure you got.
But there's
So
so
a couple
many other
questions
things.
for Darren. What's the timing on the rest of the Wayne County air monitors, and what would you need to expand Just Air to other parts of the country or more people in Michigan?
Absolutely, yeah. So start with the first. I can put a link in here, but the final the fully 100 stationary monitors will be up by the end of April. So just in time for the summer. Right now we're in the process. We kind of have our deployment. We had a lot of community input from our task force, and also using public health data, some with the maps that you showed earlier on. To deploy through the 43 communities. So we'll have a couple deployed here next couple of weeks. We'll have 25 and 25 with a full 100 will be deployed by the end of April. And in terms of what we need, just interest to expand within Michigan. We're in 7 states across the U.S. Work with some tribal communities. Something also we didn't mention as well. There's so much tribal knowledge in this work, and definitely encourage folks to reach out to our neighboring tribes and get those learnings and how to make sure that we make sure our climate and environment is sacred. Yeah, if you're interested in bringing Just Air to your communities or reach out, we can figure out how to make it work. We're in Kalamazoo, Dearborn, and Grand Rapids, and obviously Detroit, and we continue to expand throughout the country. But yeah, I
Cool.
put the link for the Wayne County. You can sign up and just receive like updates.
Okay.
I'm not
Great.
sure if it reaches them, but I put the link there in the chat.
Great, and we'll send that out. And then another question about Beyond the Heal program. Are there any other programs where folks can get air filters for their communities, for their homes?
There's not much going on right now. It's always dependent on funding, right? There was a huge grant funded program going on, and I think June's group is involved in some of it, but they had, I forgot the official name, but they had a 14,000 person wait list. That's how, desperate some people are around to try to get benefits from these grant funded programs. So right now, I don't know of anything off the top of my head. So, you can keep in touch with us. And as we hear about grant funded programs, we can make that known to you, or join HEAL and do the good work of learning more about your asthma and allergies. And you'll get an air filter.
Got it. Cool. And then I think, I don't know if Yvette has a question, but she just wanted to say that she works with the United Children and Family Head Start on health services, and she's seeing a lot of asthma on the east side that's not well managed. So what can those folks do, or what can Yvette do to try to help those kids?
Yeah, so please, it's education, because when we know better, we do better, right? That's a age-old saying. So contact me, and I'm happy to come out and do some classes to support the families, to get them in touch with resources that they need, make sure that they're visiting the right kind of doctor, getting on the right medicines, getting rid of triggers. Asthma takes a lot of effort to make better, but then, oh my gosh, once all that happens and folks are feeling better, it's a great thing because that lasts. So our phone number is 248-406-4254, or you can go to our website at aafamich.org. let me help you. And definitely we can do that. We have lots of great programs and services available.
All right. Well, I'm so
you, Matt.
appreciative to all of you for taking the time out today. Anybody want any last minute additions?
Thank
Anybody
you.
want-
Thank you for putting this on. Thank you for all your work.
Yeah.
Again.
Very welcome. Thank you so much. We will follow up with some resources and again, thanks so much for the work you're doing. And my magic wand is that you all get the resources to continue doing it.
On a Zoom, I'll call you back.
All right. Have a
Bye,
great rest
everybody.
of
Be
your
well.
day. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.